What is going on, guys? We are back playing some more Surviving with Create. And today, guys, we're going to be setting up infinite gold production. So if you remember from 2 episodes ago, we set up our infinite cobblestone farm using mechanical drills. Super simple setup, and I said it was going to be useful for 2 different builds that we were going to be making in the near future. The first one we set up last episode, which was infinite iron production. It's super useful, super simple to set up, so if you haven't done that yet, I would definitely go check out the video. But today, we're going to be setting up our infinite gold production, which admittedly, I think is a little bit less useful than infinite iron, especially if you're playing with other mods like immersive engineering. I'm not going to go off on a tangent because you guys know I usually rant about the amount of iron required in that mod, but we're not covering that today, so we're not going to do it. But I think if you guys enjoy more complicated, bigger builds, you're going to enjoy today's episode more, specifically because the last episode, it took maybe 2 to 3 steps to get from start to finish and have our iron. Today is going to take about 6 or 7 steps, a lot of different moving parts, some we haven't used before, some we have, and putting it all together, it's a pretty big build. It's really cool to watch work, and I'm pretty excited to do this. Now, one sort of disclaimer I want to say before we jump into this: if you are looking for the most compact setup, that is not this one. I'm just going to put that out there. I do not think making a very compact setup is very conducive to learning what everything does. So if you want to have the most compact setup I've ever seen, go check out Monkey Farm's video on this. It's amazing. It looks phenomenal. But the reason I'm setting it up a little bit more expanded today is because I want to teach you guys, as I've always said, how to use each individual part. You don't really just want to follow along if you're trying to learn the mod and just place blocks where I say to, and finally you have the build. The idea here in the series is that you guys will learn how to use each piece individually to get where you want to go. That way you can make your own builds and you don't just have to follow along with me in a video. So we're going to go over each part individually today. So hopefully you guys will understand, like I said, how to use them as building blocks to get where you want to be. So without further ado, I'm done rambling. I'm basically out of breath right now, but we have a lot of different things in this chest because there's a lot of different things in this build. Now, these aren't necessarily the exact numbers that you are going to need for every single part of this, but the items are pretty consistent throughout. So we have a couple encased fans, gearboxes, of course, shafts, mechanical belts, extractors, crushing wheels, funnels, magma blocks and levers. We've got some filters, a linked extractor, which will be pretty important in the end because we are going to be controlling the amount of gravel we want going to gold production and the amount we want going to iron. And we're going to set a limit on the gold because we want to stop the gold at a certain point and only produce iron then until we take some of the gold out and actually use it. We've got transposers, basins, mechanical presses, lava buckets. We don't even have enough inventory room for all of this, so I'm going to have to dump some of this stuff that we don't need over here. Then we've got an adjustable crate, a stockpile switch, which is something we haven't used. That's going to be for determining when we have enough gold, a millstone, redstone link, large cogwheel, rotation speed controller, and then we've got encased shafts and encased belts. So I got to make a little bit more room here. Like I said, it is a very large build today. And then I just have some miscellaneous blocks up here that we're going to use to make sure we can spruce up the room once everything's set up. So now we've got everything. I'm sorry I couldn't craft all those things today, but you guys know that we would be sitting there for an hour trying to craft all that. It would take forever to do that. So in here, it might look a little bit different. That is because I moved some things around because we are not just setting up infinite gold production today. We are joining it with our infinite iron production, and we are going to be making a setup that we can switch on and off from which one we want. So we kind of moved some things around. This is the infinite iron production setup. It's going into this crate right here, working flawlessly. And over here, we have our large chest collecting stuff and spitting out the gravel over there. So we're going to be building off of this side, coming around the room and through here. Now, the first thing we need to do is move it from gravel to another crushing wheel. And that is because the first step that we're going to have to do, and we're going to go step by step in this, is if we look at the uses for gravel, if we put it in a crushing wheel, and this does have to be in a crushing wheel, if you mill it, you will only get flint. But if you crushing wheel it, you will get sand, 10% chance of clay, 20% chance of flint. And that is what we need because we want the clay and we want the sand, which will eventually become more clay. So we need to bring it up into another set of crushing wheels. And we're going to do that using shafts and mechanical belts. So we're going to come down here and we're going to put down our first shaft right here. And then we're going to come up and it should be traveling diagonally, because when you place mechanical belts, you can go up, but you have to travel on a perfect diagonal. We're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4 and put it down right there. And you can see it's going to be one away from the wall here. I think the room is sized pretty perfectly for this because I intentionally did that. And we're going to place down a mechanical belt on this. And you'll see once we connect it to this first one, we can connect it right there. And so this is going to allow us to elevate the items coming out of this chest. Now we're not going to put down the extractor just yet, but we will put an extractor right over here, and that's what's going to spit them out onto the chest, or from the chest onto the mechanical belt, I should say. Then the next thing is we are going to put down a shaft right up here. Oh, that's a strange noise. We're going to put down the shaft right up here, and this is what's going to carry it over to the crushing wheels. And so we're probably going to have that be, I want to say 4 over. So 1, 2, 3, 4 right here. Actually, let's move it right here because we only need this to make sure it's dumping right into the center of the crushing wheels. So it's going to go up, then we're going to link these together for power, and it's going to come over and then dump it into the crushing wheels, which should be going right here and right here, or maybe one down, possibly. No, I think it should be right here and right here. They're going to look very weird. They're going to kind of clip into each other, but we should be able to put those down, I believe, right here and right there. So what you'll see is it's going to dump in there. We are going to want to put some blocks around up here to make sure that it doesn't pop out, but once it dumps in there, we'll be good to go. Now, we need to actually get some power going to these. So I'm going to come back around over here, and we're just going to kind of dig this out because we need some room to work with. Now, we're going to do something a little bit different today, and that is that we're going to actually try and use one power source to power a lot of different things. We're not going to follow the typical throw down an encased fan to power one thing, throw down another to power another thing. So we're going to come down here, and we are going to be setting up a little area. And we got to be careful, obviously, because we already have some power set up down here. But we are going to be setting up a rotation speed controller. And we're going to be adjusting it because we need to slow down the typical speed a little bit so that we can get more things onto it, so it doesn't overload the stress capacity. So right here, we are going to be having a large cogwheel attached. So right like that. Now, I don't know why there's a piece of netherrack down here. So we're going to put down the large cogwheel, and then we can put down the rotation speed controller right below that. Now, if you've never used one of these before, basically a large cogwheel is going to, you know what, get this. We need to get this netherrack further away from me. I do not know why that was down there. Did I like place that down there when I was filling in stuff or something? I have no idea. But the rotation speed controller, the main purpose of this is that you're able to adjust the speed of the large cogwheel that's going to be sitting in it. You can see that there's sort of an area right here that you can sit it inside, and that's going to allow you to adjust the speed of it. So we'll be able to put that down, and then we're going to set it to 12, and we are going to have to put in some power to this. And so this one, we're going to use an encased fan. I know it's my typical way to do this, but it's sufficient for powering pretty much everything in here as long as we slow it down to 12 on the rotation speed controller. So we'll grab out we actually need both we need single encased fan, magma block, we need a lever, and we'll need a gearbox. So we need that. And it should automatically start out at the right direction, I believe. So let's do that. Let's get the lever down here, start it spinning, and then we need to shift this to the other gearbox, put that down. So is it going in the correct or the incorrect direction? Okay, so it's going in the wrong direction, which means that we are going to have to adjust this. So we have two options here. I think, can we scroll this into the negatives? Yes, we can. Okay, so the one nice thing about that, if you don't know, is that you can actually adjust into the negatives, and that's going to allow you to just flip the way it rotates, which is great because it means we can leave that where it is. And now we can fill this in with just some cobblestone in the blocks down here that don't need to be open. And we will be all set to go and start bringing this power over to some of the other portions of this. So we'll fill that in right there. And now we have our conveyor going up. Now we need to get up here and transfer the power to this other mechanical belt. So we're gonna have to dig around up here and it should be relatively simple to do this. So what we're going to do is grab it from over here. Now I'm going to use some encased belts where possible, just because I think they look nice. It's up to you guys. All it is it's similar to the encased shafts. So you can see, where do we have them? Right here. So the encased belts. So all these do is they act very similar to a regular belt. So we can place them down like this. You can see they're all rotating. Now this is nice because when we eventually come back here, we're going to need a shaft technically, which is in the encased belt, to be right here for transferring the rotation over there. We're going to need one right here for accepting the rotation, but we also need one right in the middle right here because we're going to be transferring power down to another encased fan that's going to be blowing water right at the bottom of the crushing wheel. So that's what purpose this is going to serve. You don't need to use encased ones. You can use regular mechanical ones, but you are going to need 3 shafts. So what we're going to do is throw a gearbox down over here, and that's going to make this rotate the correct direction. It's going to push stuff over there, and we can now dig up here and fill this back in, make it look really nice, and then we're good to go. We've got everything being dragged over properly to the crushing wheel, and we should be able to hop over here if we just crouch, and we can fill that in. I need to get some of the appropriate blocks out on my hotbar so that we can actually fill this in. So like that, and there we go. So we hop down now, we fill this area in down here, and everything's good as new. So we got it going up, being brought over, and now we end up right at the crushing wheels. So like I said, we can fill this in with pretty much any blocks we want, but I'm just going to choose to use these right here, and we can put them down. That's a half slab on the top, right? So maybe we want that there, but I'm going to bring it out in front too. And we can build up there and actually build around it. Just because, so if you don't know, when the mechanical belts, the items kind of pop off of them. And so you just want to make sure that they're going to properly go in there. I don't know how far it pops off. I think every time it should land in there, but I like to be safe and make sure they're going to land with the crushing wheels. So now we have the crushing wheels that we need to worry about powering. And thankfully, we have rotational power spinning in the correct direction right above it. So we can just come right behind here and start transferring that in a very similar way. And we'll just dig out around here until we get up on both sides right behind the crushing wheels. So the power is right there. Then we got right here. Power needs to go right there. So awesome. Now what we can do is take our shafts, and we can use, whether you want to use the shafts and mechanical belts or the encased shafts and encased belts, it's up to you. But we're going to put a shaft down right here and a shaft down right here, and you can transfer it. So right like that, you can see that now our crushing wheel is spinning in the correct direction, which is great because what we need to do now is get it over here. And that's really pretty simple to do. And we can just take a gearbox, and what we'll do is we'll throw the gearbox down right there. So that's going to invert the rotation. And then we can just throw down a shaft and connect them right there. Now, I like using the mechanical or the encased belts in an area where it's going to be against a wall, but here you can see that it's not really visible, so I don't mind just using the regular belts, and everything in there is all set, so we can just cover it back up, and boom, now we have both crushing wheels spinning at the same speed, one with inverted rotation, and we don't need any fresh power for them. So mechanical belts and encased belts, shafts, all that are very useful in this scenario, especially if you're making a compact build like I mentioned earlier. In this one, we do have to move the rotation power kind of far away a little bit, so it does travel longer distances, but these are actually great for that. So now what we need to do is, let's look at the recipe. So we've got gravel, and the gravel is now being crushed using the crushing wheel. So we're getting flint, clay, and sand. Now the clay is what we want, but the sand needs to be turned into more clay. And how do we do that? We bulk wash it. So we are going to be putting down another fan, and we're going to be blowing water across them, just like we've done before. So we're going to grab out our smooth stone, and we're going to put down a little encased area right over here where the water can be blown across. And we're going to put the encased fan right in the back. And it occurred to me that one of the things that we took out was actually the water, which we kind of need because that's what's going to be getting blown across. So we're going to have to go grab that now. Hopefully, now that we've gotten some of the items out of our inventory, we have a little bit more room for some of the miscellaneous things that we're going to be using today. I don't know. I put it right over here. So we'll ditch some of that gravel that we picked up from the crushing wheel, I don't know what area it was being dumped out of. Probably the crushing wheel before it went into the chest over here. So now that we have our water, we can put this down. And over here, we have our encased fan, but we also have, like I said, rotation coming from right up there. So all we need to do is dig right up here and we can pull this down. So we have the option of going like this, like this. We just got to hook up the belts right there. If I could actually do that. Is that possible? Is it because I'm holding shift? Let's just break this so we can actually work with this. There to there. Yeah. So the problem was I was holding shift to try and get to visualize it. But by holding shift, I was making it so it wouldn't actually connect. And then what we can do is put an encased shaft down here just so that it looks nice, and throw another regular shaft right there. And then we can fill it in, and we can see, is this blowing air out? No, so it's pulling air in. Perfectly fine. All we got to do is throw a gearbox down right there, and boom. Wait, was it in the correct direction before? That should be inverting it. Is it? Okay, we need to check with an item on the ground. Okay, so yeah, so it's pulling in right there. Now, if we throw down a gearbox, is this... Oh, are these not the correct... Oh, did I put down encased shafts? I thought I pulled out a gearbox. They look so similar. Oh my god. Okay, hopefully you guys were not ripping your hair out. Something was not right there. Okay, so now it's blowing the items. And there's something to keep in mind that is very, very important. There is a reason that we are using 2 different encased fans, this one being one of them, and one we'll put in later for this setup. And that's because if we put this one at 8 down there instead of 12, we are able to hook up the entire setup, but you start running into issues where these fans do not blow far enough to get the items where we need them to be. And that's a very important thing because we need them to be pushed into the appropriate chests. So just something to keep in mind, but the first thing that we're going to do is put down a chest over here with the funnel on it. And it's occurring to me right now that we don't actually have any chests in our inventory either to work with. We only have the adjustable crate that we're going to need at the end. I wasn't even thinking about that. There's so many things we need for today's episode, guys. Oh my gosh. I tried to put everything out in like an Excel spreadsheet for making the build, but apparently that was not sufficient. So we'll just let's make like 3 chests. I think that should be sufficient. Then we'll just toss some cobble in there and toss the wood back in there. And do we need more water? We might, so we're just going to grab it because we keep making trips back here. Okay, so now what we're going to be doing is the same thing we did before, which is the wash and push into a chest, which I believe we're going to put right over here. So we'll put the chest down right here, and then we're going to have the funnel where it's going to be pushing it in right there. And this one's going to need a filter on it. So we're going to actually have to run this setup a bit because I do need to get some clay from it. So we are going to grab out some of this gravel. If we actually have room in our inventory. Oh my gosh, guys. Okay. We'll drop some of the flint over there and we'll just hijack some of this gravel and we can throw it on the setup and watch it work because it's totally fine. Just toss it right on there and it will function, and we should get out our clay from here, which will be great because we'll be able to filter it then. So then we'll toss it in the filter, and this is going to be, the filter will be clay and flint. And we're going to ditch the flint like before, and we're only going to want to work with the clay. But we can see that it should get properly dumped out the top there. If we give it a second, definitely not the fastest belts that we work with, but it should have made its way up there, I think. It might take a second because the crushing wheels are extra slow too for the items to actually come out the bottom. Or they just disappeared. Wait, they fell off? Did these fall off over here? Okay, this is granite. This is andesite. Diorite. No, okay, it didn't. Let's see what happened to these. I have absolutely no idea where that gravel went. All right, I'm going to open up some inventory room over here, and we're going to grab a single piece of gravel, or a couple, I guess. We're going to throw a single piece of gravel on there. Oh, okay, so it just took a little bit for the items to all be processed at once. So if you guys don't know, that's a heads up. The crushing wheels, I suspected it might be that, but it was taking longer than I thought. The crushing wheels, if you put in a stack of items at once, they will start crushing them, but it's going to take them a really long time to process them. So now that we have all this, we can dump this back in the chest, and we can pick up our filters. Okay, so we need clay and flint. So we're going to take a filter, we're going to put clay, we're going to put flint, and there we go. So the filter is set. I want to make sure that this one is actually properly set. There we go. We can click that right on there. So now this should only be able to get clay and flint in it. So it's okay to leave the clay and flint in there, open up some inventory room, and then we're going to have to put an extractor on the back of this. And we're going to be ditching the flint that we get, because we're going to get a significant amount of it, and we're going to want to just dump it right into some lava. So we got a bucket of lava right here, and we'll throw that down there. And then we'll grab out a regular extractor, and this is going to ditch the clay, so I'm actually going to pull it out here and save it in case we need it. But we're going to put down the extractor, and we're going to need a quick piece of flint right here to throw down on the filter, and it should dump those now out the back. Okay guys, so that was a little bit weird, but I think I figured it out. The piece of cobblestone that was sitting on the edge of the block there, it was registering it as being actually right here, and they won't dump out item after item if there's a ton of items sitting there already. So the minute I got the cobblestone away, it started dumping out the flint. So there we go. We got our setup. It's dumping it into lava and just destroying it, which is great. And we'll be left with clay in there. So now that we have the clay, and we'll have the regular clay, and on top of that, we will have the clay that comes from the sand being washed. If we look at that, and then we look at the uses for the clay. And this we need to turn into clay blocks, I guess. It's still clay, but it's a clay block. And we can do that by using the mechanical press and a basin. And then we're going to use the clay blocks to turn them into terracotta. So it's getting a little bit ahead of us. We need to first use the mechanical press. So we're going to use a transposer here and put the clay into a basin. So that will go right here. We'll put the transposer, and we're going to grab out a piece of the clay so that we can put it on the filter, because we want to make sure that only clay goes in here. So now we have this. We can toss down one of the mechanical presses on top of it. There we go. And we're actually going to want to rotate this, because we're going to want this mechanical press facing with the shaft that's going to accept the power like this. And that's because we are going to be running power from the wall here across to another mechanical press that we're also going to be using later on. So we're going to be putting a shaft down right here, which is eventually going to receive power, but we're going to move on to the next step, because we're not going to transfer the power yet until we have the final shaft placed down over there that we're going to be working with. So once we have the clay, we're going to have to put that into terracotta. And to do that, we're going to have to cook that down using lava and blowing it across just like we've been doing. So again, we are going to need an extractor to pull that out of the basin. And we're going to have to not put the filter on this yet until we actually get some items running through here. I did not have a block of clay to work with, so I apologize for that. But we can start setting up the lava that's going to be blown across it, just like the water. We're going to do some stone slabs. We can get rid of this. So the item is going to be dropped right here. And then we are going to have the lava right here with an encased fan blowing across it. And we can rotate that right there and put the lava down. Now, I should probably put some glass on top of these if I wanted to, but we're just going to put smooth stone slabs on top of the lava. And I guess I'll put them on top of the water just so it looks, you know, similar across all of them. But this is going to, when it gets hooked up, be blowing the lava across, and it's going to push the items. And we're going to want to have a millstone set up right here. So we'll put the millstone set up right there, and we're going to put a funnel on it, which you can do just like this. And we're going to want to put the filter to be terracotta for this, because we want to make sure it's fully cooked down by the time it accepts the item. We don't want it grabbing just regular clay. But if we look at the recipe right here, we're going to go to clay so that we don't have to keep going through the initial steps over and over. But if we go to clay and we look at the uses for this, so we cook it down using the smelting and we get terracotta. The uses for this, if we were to crush it or mill it, we get the same thing. So we're not crushing it. Milling it is significantly easier, requires way less room. But when we mill it, we get red sand. And so when we take red sand and we wash it, this is the last step, we get a 12% chance at 3 gold nuggets and a 5% chance at a dead bush. So, great, of course. Who doesn't want the dead bush? That's really what we're going for here, everybody. The gold is just a byproduct of the real process. But yeah, it's going to be another ditched byproduct, really. And then we have the gold nuggets. So once we have the millstone, we're going to put an extractor on it. Eventually this will have a filter. I guess you don't really technically need a filter. It's only going to dump it out once it's done. But we need to put some rotational power on the millstone. And this is where the second encased fan comes in. So millstones are powered directly from beneath them. So if we come down here and we'll make a little staircase, you can see that the shaft that accepts the power is directly on the bottom. So we're going to be making a gearbox that goes right here. And we're going to be putting it down like so, and we're actually going to rotate it because we are going to use this encased fan as the second and last one, and this is going to transfer the power over here to this encased fan, and it's going to bring it over to the encased fan that's going to be over here blowing the water across to rinse this. So we need to put the encased fan down here though, which means the magma block right here, encased fan right above it. So we'll put this right there. Grab out our encased fan and our lever, put the encased fan right there, lever right there, and we should probably make sure that it's facing the right way. It is absolutely not. We place it down like that. Nope, I think we got to shift place it. See if that works. Yep, there we go. Okay, so we get that, lever, got it spinning, and then toss down the gearbox. And then we got to rotate the gearbox because we want it facing with the shaft through the center here. And now we can cover this up. We can see the millstones running. Now comes the portion of transferring the rotation over to this encased fan. And we're going to have to make sure it's blowing stuff. So what we're going to do is use encased shafts because we want it to look nice, like I always say. Okay guys, sorry about that. One of my cats decided it was time. They needed some serious attention, so I had to hop off camera for a bit and play with them. So now we are back. We have the encased shafts running right under the lava and the encased fan where we left off. Now what we need to do is bring the rotation up here. And really the big question is, are we going to need to extend it one to get an additional gearbox, or is it going to be blowing in the correct direction to start? So we need to take 2 of these. Those are, why can't we switch these gearboxes to the other ones? That's very strange because nope, that's apparently cobblestone. My gosh, why does that always happen? So there's the gearboxes. Okay, so we need to switch 2 of those to be the vertical ones. And moment of truth, is this blowing items or pulling them in? Okay, so it's pulling them in. That is not what we want. As you can see, that is subpar. It's going to burn them. So we want to add 1 layer of rotation to this on top of where it's at already, which means another encased shaft. And then right here, we're going to put down the gearbox, rotate this one, and another gearbox. So I know it's a lot of gearboxes. We should actually just be fine using these. But this should provide us with the proper rotation now. And if we were to throw down some granite we want to get rid of, it will push it in the correct direction. Now that got eaten up by the millstone because we don't have a filter on it, but that wouldn't normally be dropped there anyway, so it's not a huge deal. So we can just cover that back up. And now we have rotational power on this. We just want to make sure we don't walk in front of this. Oh, but apparently it gave us red sand anyway, which is great because that's what we would want right here. Again, we don't really need a filter on this, but I'm actually surprised. I guess that gives us red sand as a perfect block. Okay, but now what we need to do is wash the red sand, the last step, and it's going to happen. Well, it's the last step to get gold nuggets. Then we need to actually make those into something. But we are going to have it right here. And we're going to put down our chest right over here. This is where the items are going to get blown into with the water. We're going to put down our last funnel right on this side right here, and we've got our filter, which is going to have gold nuggets and the dead bush in it. And then we're going to have our encased fan and water setup on the other side here. We don't need the magma blocks because we're going to be transferring power over there. So we should be setting it up, I want to say right here. So the water will go right there. The encased fan will be in the wall right there. And we should be able to, a little awkward. Oh, if I can place blocks correctly, we can put this down right here. And there we go. Cover it up and it looks nice. So the water will be blown across, pushing the block over here and right into that chest. And so then what we need to do is come behind this and transfer our power to it. So we're going to do this pretty much how we did the other one. So we are going to dig down here, come right under here, and we are going to bring with some encased shafts. And not all of them are going to be encased, keep that in mind. So we're going to run the encased shaft under like this, and then we are going to take a regular shaft. Oh, we only have 2 left. We're going to have to go make another one, I think. Regular shaft and regular shaft. And then we are going to grab out our mechanical belt and transfer the power diagonally. Now the real question here is, again, is it pushing in the correct direction, or do we need a gearbox? So it is pulling it in. We got unlucky on both accounts. So what we're going to do is extend this with 1 additional encased shaft. Then we are going to come right up here, do the same thing we just did, shaft, shaft, mechanical belts, and a gearbox. Throwing it down right here, and now it should be blowing the items away. We can test with ourselves. Yep, it's blowing the items in the correct direction, which means we can fill this bad boy in over here, and we are on the home stretch. So we now have that, which means the items that are going to be coming out over here are going to be the gold and the dead bush. And so we're going to put lava down right here, and that is where the dead bushes are going to get dropped. So we're going to put down an extractor right on the side of this. We are going to grab the dead bush and put it in the filter right here. And then we are going to put some lava down right here. And we're just going to make sure that we don't step in it, because there's not really an amazing way for us to cover it. We might be able to put a slab down somewhere, but we're just going to really try and not walk into it. So yeah, that's the plan for the time being. Now we're going to take the transposer and we are going to put it on this chest right here. This is going to be taking the gold nuggets and putting them in this basin right here, which is going to have a mechanical press perfectly lined up with the other mechanical press right over there. So we're going to put that down. And as I said, we're short 1 shaft. So we need to go get a shaft. I don't know if I have any more in the chests over here, or if I need to make one. Getting some lag from that tree farm constantly running. I don't think we have any additional ones in the chest over here. I think I grabbed all of them out, but we should be able to just make one very easily. So do we have any andesite in here? We do. So we grab the 2 out. There we go. We got some new shafts to work with, and we should be able to power all of it now, which is awesome. I'm also interested in seeing how much iron we've gotten through the course of this episode. So we'll put down the shaft right there, and now we need to connect them along with the shaft that we will be running right through here out this side. So we're going to dig our way up and sort of figure out where all the power is. So you can see right here, we should be able to grab out some of the power. So we are going to take a gearbox right here and run this over, and then we can mechanical belt it right over here. And oh, that is not what you want. Can we, if we get in the way of the water, will it quench us? There we go. Okay. Need to be a little bit more careful about that. Yeah, so we connected the mechanical belt. If you don't know, if you have a shaft in the middle of the mechanical belt, it will still turn. So we just connected it right across that. Now I know that this should probably be an encased belt right here coming from the wall, just because it doesn't look totally great, but we'll live with it for now. I can always change it off camera. Okay, so now we are really in the home stretch. So we've got right here the basin, which is going to be making the gold nuggets into gold ingots. And so we are just going to pull this out and we're going to put it into an adjustable crate. Now, what we're going to do with this is the last and final really step in this whole process. And this is going to be, like I said, if you are going to try to alternate between making gold and iron, depending on how much you have. So this is where the stockpile switch comes in handy. And this toggles a redstone signal based on the storage space in the attached container. So we are going to put this down right here. And we're going to come over, and if we click on this, we can adjust where the signal is made. So we want to start a signal, and we'll just scroll on this when it is above 10%. And we want to stop the signal. We'll keep them spaced the minimum that you can have them apart, which is 5%. So the signal stops below 5% and starts above 10%. And we are going to adjust this crate to be 640. So that's going to be 1 stack. So we want 1 stack of gold in there. I don't really think we're going to need more than that. Once we have that, it is going to stop until we have below half a stack, and then it'll start again. And the way we make this work is by putting down a redstone link right here. Okay, where is it in my inventory? I know it's somewhere. Redstone link right there. It should be fine. I don't really think we need to rotate it at all. I think it should accept it fine. But we have a redstone link. And we can really put down whatever we want for this one. We'll just use a smooth stone slab as the frequency. And what we're going to do is come over, and the extractor that we're putting down over here is going to be a linked extractor. And this takes an item from an inventory, but it can be controlled via redstone link, and it pauses the extractor when it's active. So we're going to throw this down over here, and we are going to, if we can get on the other side, so that's a filter. So we don't want that. And it's just giving us all this. So we don't want the filter. We want to get to the other side, which is a little bit of a pain. We should have done this probably earlier, admittedly. But we're going to come over here, and we'll just dig through the wall until we can set this. But we need to set the frequency for it properly. So there we go. So we set the frequency. Now it should be properly set. And you can see that we are going to be splitting. It's pretty much even when you have 2 different extractors that are both running. I tested it with hoppers for a very long time to see how much it would collect. It's basically an even split. This is pretty much the best way we're going to get where we can disable one side because we're not getting massive clumps. There also is the option of putting them on a belt and using the belt observer and having it split them, but then it only works if you're getting them in stacks. So because we're getting them pretty much individually, this is going to have to do. But you can see they're getting carried up. And now we're going to have to start setting the filters as items pass through here because, and I need to make sure we don't get caught in the lava again, but because we need to get the clay when it comes out of here and the terracotta ideally before it gets sucked up. Mainly because I think the clay might make it in here by chance if we don't do this. So we may have to get rid of this extractor for the time being, or you know what, I'll put cobblestone as the filter there. And once we get enough clay put in here, we'll be able to grab out the clay block after it's made, set the filter properly, and then grab out the terracotta before it gets sucked up by this funnel. So I guess we're kind of playing the waiting game. Now, unfortunately, this one takes a lot longer to make a piece of gold. I'm just going to put that out there. When I was practicing setting this up, I let it run for a while. I think I got 1 piece of gold ingots. So it takes a really, really, really long time to actually get it. Now you can see we got 1 block of clay in there. Well, I got a piece of clay. Did it pull out the block too? There we go. So we got the clay block. So that is going to go right there. Now, if we set a weird filter for this, if we were, which one ate that up? This one ate that up? Oh my gosh. Okay, well, we got to set a filter for this thing too. And I got burned again. Okay, so we want this to cook that down and make sure we don't pick it up right away. So we'll let it cook it down, and then we'll pick up the terracotta because we want that to be filtered there. We need to make sure that we have a terracotta block to have filtered there so that the clay does not get blown into it and actually picked up. So it takes a little bit to cook it down. Hopefully it's cooking it down. It's making the particle effects like it is, but it's taking its sweet time. Huh. Oh, it got picked up by the other clay that came out. Yeah, we might need to change this filter then too. Okay, so did it get picked up by that? Something picked it up. What is happening here? Okay, there we go. We got the terracotta. So the terracotta is going to be filtered there. and we want to have the clay filtered over here. This is such a painstaking process. I should have done this before. Okay, so the clay can come out over here. I'm just going to toss these blocks down. Then the red sand we have filtered there. So really the next step is getting, and I'll toss another clay block down there. The next step is getting the gold nuggets. We totally already have gold nuggets, so we can filter those out. This needs to be on in a special filter because it needs to get both the dead bushes and it needs to be able to get, oh, it's raining out, such a dreary day. It needs to be able to get the gold nuggets and the dead bush. So there's no way we don't have yet. We have some gold nuggets in here, and we'll grab those out so we can set the filter, and then I think we're done. I think the extended video is over. So we'll come down here. We should have one filter left. We're able to put in the gold nugget and the dead bush and toss the filter down there. And we can toss those in there, toss the dead bush, and oh, we need to make sure that gold nuggets are filtered right here. So we want those to be filtered in stacks of 1. And toss this in there and toss the dead bush. The dead bush gets dropped. The nuggets get pushed in there, and you don't need a filter on this. You can see that this is taking the red sand, and that should be totally processed. Oh, we got some gold from that. So it went in there. Awesome. Now, the hopes would be that eventually we're able to actually see this function, but with the rate at which you get gold, there's actually a pretty high probability that it takes a long time for us to be able to see this work. Oh, I spoke too soon. Okay, well, now we have a gold ingot in here. Now, a way that I can show you this is it does not read the items. So if we were to throw in here, let's say over a stack of cobblestone, you can see this lights up and immediately it halts the gravel from going up the path. And it's only going to go towards the iron, which we've gotten about half a stack from this episode alone. But now the minute we take these out, you can see again, gravel starts going. It allows it to go up there again, which I think is absolutely awesome. Basically, we want to make sure we have enough gold if we need it, but we don't want to overproduce it because we just want a mass amount of iron then, because iron is significantly more useful than gold. But I think that's going to be it for today, guys. Super long video, I know. I know you guys have been waiting for a Create episode to come out, and this one I think is really cool. It's complicated stuff. Not the most complicated things we're going to do, but hopefully I was able to go through everything in depth enough that you guys understand each individual piece. That way, like I always describe it, you're not just following the instructions on how to build something out of Legos. You understand what every piece does, the purpose it serves, and then you can go and make your own awesome creations. That's exactly what this is. It's Lego building blocks. And when you watch videos that are just 10 minutes and they tell you place this here and this here and this here, I don't think you necessarily learn everything you need to about what's going on. But hopefully now you understand washing, the milling, all of that, the smelting that can go on, and the thought process behind what you're trying to do. Because once you understand how each of these work, they're all pretty similar, and you get an awesome factory like this that's going to produce you infinite resources. So let me know if you guys try and set this up and if it's fun, if you have your own cool builds that you use some of this stuff for. I always love hearing about that stuff. I hope you guys are all doing well, enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you later.
Standing in a glass bowl at the end of a black hole, cold, lost and upside down. Faces swirling past me, all my memories rolling vastly.